Is AI secretly making us all dumber? Can a dyslexic ex-stand-up comedian and musical madman teach your company how to not get replaced by robots? This week, we revisit our chat with David Birss. He built a manifesto to save your brain. He can play 40 instruments, including one down a toilet. That's absolutely true. And claims most businesses are totally cocking up AI. If you want to know the real dangers, the stupidest mistakes, and the weirdest stories from inside the AI revolution, stick around and get ready to rethink everything you know about tech. Check it out. I'm Andy Uri, and today we're joined by David Birss. David is a renowned author, speaker, advisor, and educator in generative AI, creativity, and innovation. A former advertising creative director for 20 years. I always wanted to do that. David now spends his time stripping away the BS of generative AI to explain how it can really add value to individuals and business practices. David's firm belief is that with the right approach, it's possible for generative AI to benefit customers, employees, and businesses alike. Highlights include over 760,000 students taught, 28,000 courses shared, 6 best-selling books, and the founder of the Sensible AI Manifesto. David, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. There we go. I'm a David. That's it's only my father that calls me David.
Oh, really? What does everyone call you, Dave?
Dave, yeah. Like the cool geography teacher.
You feel more like a David though, with that sort of intro. Yeah, Dave's a bit like what, Dave? You know, like he doesn't. Right. Dave doesn't know much, but he's a lovely lad.
I'll be David for today.
So yeah, tell me about what is Sensible AI Manifesto. What is that?
Well, it came from a year of frustration. Talking to lots of business leaders around the world, and I accidentally became an AI instructor. It wasn't something I intended to do, but I accidentally became that because a course came out on LinkedIn. Then lots of companies started contacting me to ask me about AI. So then I spoke to these business leaders, and I could see that their approach was wrong. I could see that their approach was going to damage the business. It was going to really piss off the talented people in their organizations, and they'll leave. So you'll lose your talent because they're the ones who feel frustrated, constrained, not listened to. So I could see that their approach was really wrong. So I decided to take the stuff that I'd seen being done wrong and try to work out what's the best advice I can give businesses. So I developed this over a few months, and I sort of sent it to really smart people who were like AI thinkers and business leaders until I got something that I was really happy with. And then on the 1st of January, I released this and instantly got hundreds of people signing up to support the Sensible AI Manifesto. So yeah, that's one of the things I've done, because I'm really concerned about people, just employees in general, being damaged by AI being implemented in the wrong way, because it seems as if that's what companies are trying to do.
What is the way you think companies are trying to implement it?
It's the natural way that companies will try to do anything. Badly, yes. Half-arsed, sticky plaster. But where the business leaders are thinking, well, hold on, we are rewarded and monetized based on our quarterly performance. So what that does is it leads to short-term thinking. Short-term thinking that is purely focused on productivity. I think that productivity has become a terrible myth in recent years. It's something that so many companies have been going after, and I think it's leading to problems. And with AI, if you have a productivity-first mindset, and sadly the AI products that are out there are preaching about how they're amazing at productivity, that if that's the case, if that's what you're focused on, then you're going to cause damage because you're focusing on the wrong thing. So there was a study that came out last week or the week before, which completely backs everything that I've been saying for the last year and a half to companies. So this study from Upwork, and it says that 96% of C-suite leaders expect AI to boost worker productivity, right? 96%. That's pretty much everyone. The other 4%, I don't know, they went to the toilet at that point, forgot to answer. 81% of global C-suite leaders acknowledge that they have increased demands on their workers in the past year. 81% say that they're asking more from their employees. So 77% of employees report that AI has increased their workload. So AI has not been a productivity helper. It's increased their workload. 71% of full-time employees are burned out. 65% report struggling with their employer's demands, and 1 in 3 full-time employees are saying that they're likely to quit their jobs in the next 6 months.
Yeah, they're shocking stats. I'm always a little skeptical about stats because people love to fill in things like "I'm burnt out," poor me. But let's assume that the message in there is correct. So they're saying to their employees, "Right, I want you to use AI," and that's just increasing the amount they have to do rather than "I want you to get on with your job." Or
it's this misunderstanding that actually AI tools are going to let you do your work faster. You're going to get more done faster, and this was exactly what happened when I started in the advertising industry in the early mid-90s. All the briefs that were coming in were from software companies and tech companies because the internet was new and all of this tech stuff was happening. And all the briefs pretty much said the same thing. It's just like, hey, you can use our software so you can spend more time in the golf course. And of course, that's bullshit. That's not what happened, because when people get more done faster, companies go, oh, you can get more done in that time. Well, that other 3 hours you've saved every day, fill that up with more work.
I see what you mean. Let's deal with this productivity thing, because I know they throw it around so much about how unproductive the British are and we're all drinking too much tea or something. I find it a bit of a bullshit too, because I'm like, well, how's this being measured? Or, I'm lost how they're working it out for starters. But from a productivity point of view, AI will increase productivity.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
It depends what you're doing. And what a lot of companies have conflated is automation and AI.
Right.
Now, automation is when you're able to hand over to a computer and to get it to do stuff that humans would normally manually do. Now, that is something that, AI can be involved in some automation, but the majority of what we're looking at here isn't that.
And it's very difficult to execute automation.
Exactly. And when you're doing that, what you're doing is you're doing a deal with the devil where you're saying that I will accept adequacy.
Yeah.
And that's what you get. And very often if we're looking at then using AI and automation, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at adequacy. You are eliminating the chance of excellence.
Okay, simple use of AI that people are starting to do. They're trying to write an email. They go on ChatGPT and say, help me write this email. Or, that's increasing my productivity, isn't it? Because you can take something. I used it the other day. Helpfully, we're trying to write something for the website. And we were like, oh, just give me like 10 reasons why startup companies would want to do X. And it's like, and we're like, well, I don't like that one and should have that one. But that sped up what me and Ross were sitting there doing. We probably have spent an hour coming up with it and we did it in 10 minutes. So that increased our productivity, didn't it?
It depends what you're doing. And it depends what your standard for acceptability is. So if it's something that, for example, responding to an email, most emails, adequacy is fine.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
Most websites, frankly,
There you go. So there's some things that if your standard is low, if adequacy is sufficient, then it can help with that. But if you're after excellence, and I sort of come from the creative industries, and that's really very often what you're after as somebody who's
you don't survive without it.
Exactly. Somebody who's a creative person, your judgment is so important. Your ability to execute really well is important. Ability to spot what a good idea is important. AI can't really help you very much with that kind of stuff. It can help as part of the process, but it needs a lot of human intervention. And what we're finding is that particularly AI being used for anything that's strategic or creative or requires some kind of anything more than rudimentary thinking, AI doesn't necessarily speed it up, but it can help you get better results. So it can actually increase the quality of your output, but it's not necessarily going to speed it up.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, and there's a bit of which you can waste with it creatively, couldn't you? You could sit and come up with something. I think the bit that scares me is the way you start handing over brain power. The easy example is, when GPS and sat-nav came in. I still remember when I got a TomTom and I'd been driving in London, since my teens, and I knew London parts of it reasonably well. And then, my girlfriend gave me a TomTom, and then I just found myself staring at it all the time and I didn't know where everything was anymore. And Actually, then it got nicked outside this building. So they smashed my window and took my TomTom. And I remember writing a rap about it. But I was like, I was happy actually after a few days, because I was like, oh, I'm back to like driving, and knowing where I am. But the way humans hand these tasks over to computers, and you can see with AI that it definitely worries me if people come reliant on. They're like, okay, write me this thing, and then they're like, oh, okay, what it says. At the moment we're in a position where we've got knowledge so we can correct it. But I wonder what happens when you go forward and it's suddenly, well, nobody knows anymore. You just ask it and it pumps it out.
That's a significant danger. I mean, if we were to look at the effect that this can potentially have on the brain, because as much as I teach people how to get the most out of AI, I'm not an evangelist for it. I'm very pragmatic. And one of the areas I'm actually most concerned about is the impact it's going to have on humans. Maybe humans have peaked now. And the AI now is basically going to mean that we get weaker and weaker mentally.
Yeah. It's that double effect, isn't it? It gets cleverer and cleverer, and we also get stupider and stupider,
Also, if we look at the fact that it's taking on more human attributes, and what that can potentially leave humans for is actually more robotic work. That is screwed up.
Yeah.
But if we look at different areas of neuroscience, so you get something cognitive pruning. It happens throughout your life, but there's 2 or 3 main cognitive pruning events. One of the main one really is during your teenage years. Now, this happens when parts of your brain that aren't being used very regularly is not seen as useful, so your brain basically dissolves that part. So if this happens for teenagers, if they're just going to be outsourcing and they're not actually building those parts of their brains, the mental muscles for these parts of their brain, because they're just going to ChatGPT to get answers for things and they're not engaging their brain, what's that going to do for them in the long term? Then you've got this sort of 10,000 hours thing that, it takes time to get good at something. I'm a former musician, and I know that my musician friends, some of them are dysfunctional in their sort of obsession for how they learn their instruments, how many hours a day they spend. And that's fantastic. But there's certain things like business stuff that we have to start getting good at. You have to fail at the beginning and then develop at that to get better at it. Now, if you're not going to be failing because you're just going immediately to AI, and AI means that you don't have to fail, it means that you're immediately adequate as you use it, because that's what it provides. You've not gone through the same learning curve. You've not built up your brain power. You've not developed the judgment. It makes it much harder for you to retain those skills and to build those skills. And there's lots of issues that we're going to have, both from people sort of losing skills that they've previously had and not building up skills in the first place.
There's an easy example, the invention of the calculator. My dad still works in the business. He comes from an era pre-calculator. They had to learn to add up, and they would be given a phone book and told to add it up, and things like this. He can add up in his head. He's a dyslexic, and he can still do it. He can go down numbers and come to the bottom and write down the answer. He's a computer. He's a calculator. Now, what that gives an accountant is ability to see numbers. So he can look at a spreadsheet. So there's only a few people left in the business who can do it. There's him. There's one other who just retired. I'd have to think if anyone else is old enough, because it's such a long time ago the calculator came in, and he talks about when it came in, and it was a big partner decision to buy this big thing, and it could do 2 people's job. And, he can look at spreadsheets and he'll go, that's wrong. Or, this doesn't make sense. And you're like, no, it's a spreadsheet. And then you go check and it's like, oh yeah, fuck it, hadn't added up properly and it missed a number. And that changed accounting because people don't really understand numbers anymore. And he gets frustrated. He's like, you guys can't actually read numbers properly, So, I mean, there's a simple skill that disappeared that gives him an ability to look through, to truly understand how numbers are fitting together, whether the rest of us kind of rely. So I agree. That's a real threat. I mean, so therefore, turning it to the positive, how do you, maybe ask a different question. Okay, so that's one risk. Is there another main risk that really bothers you about how we might adapt this? That we all become stupider, but is there something else that sort of fundamentally would underpin concerns?
Well, it's the way that businesses are trying to do it. When you focus on productivity, you're just trying to basically get people to outsource tasks to the AI. And that's not the way we should be looking at it. The way we need to look at it is we're using AI to augment humans. So it's how can we use this technology to make people capable of more than they were ever previously capable of?
Superpower them.
Yeah, because that's what good technology is. There was, I think it was National Geographic did a story back in the early 70s. I think it was 71. And this was looking at the efficiency, the energy efficiency of different animals traveling the same distance. So they measured like worms and beetles and mice and horses and humans and birds. How much energy do they expend? Now, humans were like halfway down the list. We weren't doing that well at all. We were just above the worms and the beetles, I think. And by far, the top animal was the condor. It was the best, most efficient use of energy. But then they thought, well, hold on, humans have got the capability to make inventions. So let's look at how much energy does it take for a human on a bicycle. And at that point, humans then became the number one creature. And this is what it's about. When we are able to use tools to augment our own powers, to augment our own capabilities, technology then becomes part of us. It helps us do more.
Okay, these are great points. I mean, while we're there, the more I listen to the sort of existential threat of AI, just to touch upon it, the more I sort of went from like, to like, oh my God, this is like a proper 50-50, it's the end of humanity, Where are you on that one?
Yeah, but not just for AI. AI is part of it.
Yeah, it's the sort of coming together of all these various technologies, isn't it? Once they started saying to me, well, look, if you've got, hyper intelligence, way smarter than us, and then you've got a rogue actor, and then you need to bring in a couple of other forms of sort of overlying encryption from quantum and stuff like this, then, they can just decide, right, we're going to destroy humanity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there is a book, The Coming Wave by Mustafa Suleyman. He was one of the founders of DeepMind. And this book, you would think from somebody who's one of the founders of DeepMind would be sort of positive about AI. Actually, he's looking at the whole thing and going, look, we've got real dangers here. And he brings together AI with genetics, and the ability now to actually manufacture genetic material. And people are able to do that. You're able to buy the equipment. They're able to sort of do it in laboratories. And his concern is that the power that we have now, that's now almost in the hands of consumers, it only takes one asshole with a grudge.
Yeah. That's the bit I hadn't thought about, because it's open everywhere. The comparison is like, well, nuclear warfare is controlled by governments. They're massive pieces of equipment. It's not something. But yeah, the moment it's open AI, then you just need the rogue actor.
So then when we look at what's happened with Ukraine and Russia, how Ukraine managed to combat without having the budget and the big, all the military infrastructure that Russia has, is they brought in consumer electronics and they started using drones and weaponizing drones. They were using AI to look at drone photographs to work out where the potential Russian sort of attacks were going to come from. We're using AI to work out what strategies they needed to take against this. Really? So they've been using AI in that way and consumer electronics from the beginning, as far as what I've read. But now they're looking at drones that are operated by AI, so autonomous and controlled by AI. I've got a problem with that. I think that that's a line that we should never cross.
Yeah. Don't give. Well, we've crossed it apparently, because that's what the advocates are saying. AI could change everything, but limit it to genetic research, medicine. Just put it in boxes. But the genie's out of the bottle, isn't it?
Sadly.
So basically, you come to the conclusion. Every sort of clever person who really understands AI seems to come to the conclusion we're FUCK'd, very possibly.
Potentially, the whole thing is it's just down to these bad actors. At this point, this is where governments should be trying to protect. And they can't. They just can't. They move so slowly. The UK completely dropped the ball on AI. So it seemed to just distribute the responsibility amongst different departments rather than having like centralized expertise, which I think is absolutely necessary for AI. I think we need to have, it's something I spoke to people in government about 10 years ago when I could see we were having problems with social media. And I spoke to an MP and said, is there an opportunity for us to create basically an organization, a sort of body that looks at the future and imagines all of the future possibilities, almost the multiverses that could potentially come from this moment. What are the different risks, threats, opportunities here? And what can we do in government to amplify the opportunities and to mitigate the threats? I think it's really important for us to be thinking about that. A sort of futurist.
Yeah. I'm quite into that too. The times I've raised futurism, though, people will really be like, shout it down, like nobody predicts the future, everyone gets it wrong. And I'm like, I don't know if that's entirely true.
But you can still identify risks, can't you?
Yeah, well, I could think of, films that predicted the future quite well. Christ, I was watching Knight Rider with my son and I'm like, oh my God, and there's loads of stuff in Knight Rider they got right. As in they're not saying it's set in the future, but you could build Kit now.
Yeah.
I mean, you could literally build Kit. It's an AI talking car. It's got these super things that you could put in, blasters and whatever. There's some other stuff in it that I was like, oh my God, they're actually getting all that shit right in 1981,
Yeah, but the most important thing is to have that red light at the front going whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. That's the cool bit. That's what everyone really wants.
Let's take it back to the business. Okay, so AI is, massive. Okay, you have these concerns. You want it. You say businesses have got to use it to sort of augment what they do. I mean, other than going to read your book, I don't know which book you'd recommend on this.
I'm writing another book at the moment, which is for kids.
Oh, nice.
AI for schools, basically. And then I've been asked to write a book on the Sensible AI Manifesto. My other books are all about creativity and innovation.
But if I sat down as a business and read your manifesto, I assume it's not that long if it's a manifesto. It's something...
It's one page on a website, and then you can download a PDF booklet that goes into more depth. And then I can offer training
and that can offer you the principles of how to approach it for your business. Okay. That sounds like great advice. And if you were going to sort of pick one of these things or something that you would say to someone about how to approach it, because I mean, it sounds simple, but I don't know how to approach that in my business particularly. Is there like one good bit of advice you could give out of that or something?
Well, there's 7 pieces of advice on the Sensible AI Manifesto. So the first one is to augment skills. As I've said, that's what you should be aiming to do. It's not to reduce work, it's to augment humans.
Okay, forget about productivity. Think about how to make superhumans or better humans,
Yeah. And then there's things like use data responsibly. And that's naturally anyone who's a lawyer or a data scientist or anyone will say that, of course, you have to do that. So it's an important one we have to talk about. Be ethical, because we don't really have the laws in place, and you do not want to become a legal precedent. So be ethical, follow your head and your heart, and don't be a dickhead, because I mean, that's what so much of business is about, is just don't be a dick, really, isn't it? Then support your employees. And when it comes to support your employees, that's in several ways. At the moment, employees are needing emotional support because they're worried about this technology and they don't know how the company is going to use it. Then you've got the training support, then you've got the technical support. So it's important that we look at all of these different kinds of support that we offer employees. Then I think it's important to assign AI leaders, because I've seen companies trying to do AI, but they don't assign anyone, so nothing really happens. So you need somebody who's actually going to be responsible for this, because you need a back to pat and an arse to kick. It's important that somebody's got responsibility. Then there's the other ones are keep learning, because this is changing all the time. And then always add a human layer. So whenever you've got response from an AI, you've not got your output properly yet. It has to then go through a human brain to make sure that it's accurate, to make sure that it's of sufficient quality, it's of the right tone, all of these things, so that you pass on something that you would be proud of, rather than just, you can't use it as an excuse to say, well, ChatGPT did it, not my fault. No. Nobody's going to let you off with that.
No, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, yeah, we have a CTO actually, and we just talk about it a lot. And I think for us, we have a lot of different systems because we do a lot of different things. I mean, we really, the softwares and the things we're using are incorporating AI into it. So actually, a lot of it's being done for us, really. We could run around and try and come up with something, as you say, maybe confuse automation in that. But underneath it, it's like they're starting to add these AI tools. So CCH has added it to this tax thing. But yeah, we tested it. We were like, it's not quite there yet or something, Actually, I think, anyway, but, I think they're coming along. I think they're going to be really helpful in that. Doing tax returns is pretty complicated. If a thing sort of pops up and says like, oh, hey, usually when people do this, there's this thing over here, or, if we thought about this, that's good. As long as it's not like the paperclip from Microsoft years ago. Do you remember? Like, I think you're writing a letter. No, I am. No, fuck off. I remember that I guess that was an early AI or something, really.
It was way ahead of its time. Clippy.
Clippy, is that what it's called?
Yeah, way ahead of his time.
Did anybody like Clippy?
No, everyone hated Clippy. I mean, you're doing business and you've got this kids cartoon coming up.
And getting it wrong. Just like, Word still fascinates me how everything just jumps around the whole time. Anyway, well, I think that's very wise and great that you've developed a sort of manifesto to try and, I guess, stop companies buggering it up. Do you think we're well placed for it? Do you think, because everyone's going to be adopting it, but do you think we're going to be any better at it or worse than it? No, same.
Right. So looking at things from a trainer's point of view, I've been providing education for nearly 15 years. And I do that all over the world now. But I tried for years in the UK to make a living really as an educator, as a corporate trainer. And over here, there are lots of problems. That we do not invest enough in training. In our cultures, in our companies' cultures, we do not encourage expenditure on training. The attitude to training is box ticking at best. So the companies will get me in and they'll say, oh, how much for a full day's training or whatever else? I'll say, they go, oh, could you do like a 1 hour talk? And they go, because then we can like just tick. And it's cheaper. So this real shit approach where they're not looking at it as, here's our teams. We have got humans here. These humans are full of potential. How can we unlock the potential of those humans? That is not the way it is.
We're so up for training in terms of like, especially in a professional business, we're like, oh, you want to study that course, you want to do that thing. But our problem is we sell time. Basically, everyone thinks you sell products and stuff, but by the way, all we have is time and that's what we sell. So when someone comes in to train, if it's a whole day, people's attention spans too, it depends what we're doing, but we're like, yeah, that's a whole day of that entire department doing that thing. But you're right if it's right in the long term, but there's so many subjects to train in, we would do a similar thing. We do it. We no longer go out for training. We find an expert that we work with as well, who's the leading person in the country. And then we say, right, come and give us 2 hours on this, maybe in a few months, give us 2 hours on that, because it's all we can take anyway, So I take your point, but is there not an aspect like that for businesses that are just, we don't know how, if we did a full day on you, then we'd the employment, we'd turn the workforce off a month a year or something like that.
And that, of course, is an issue. But you can look at the flip side of that and go, well, how much time is wasted in meetings that are completely useless?
That's such a good point.
So that if you were then to take that time that's wasted in meetings and put that into training, think of the difference that would make. There was an agency that I worked at years ago, and I coded this. This is when before I can get ChatGPT to code anything for me now, but back in the day, and I coded this thing that you'd be able to tell who was in the room and what their annual salary was. And it didn't bring that up on a board or anything. But from the length of the meeting, you hit a button and it went go. And then you could see the money, how much it actually cost the company, racking up.
Yeah.
Your billable rate started racking up. And of course, there would be like senior people in the room who are there because, politically they have to be there. And just, oh my goodness, as soon as that was visible,
I've always wanted to do that for clients, just to see how it changes my meetings. 2 of us in the meeting and we put our hourly rates and they see that and they just be like, shut up about your holiday. Get to the bloody point. Oh, this answer, I gotta go. Jesus Christ. This is 600 quid. You haven't answered a question. It'd be hilarious to watch that happen. Actually, when you really get down to it, because this is what people do, they try and break the time down is, look, we sell time. It's not a perfect art form. There's a lot of risk. It's very complicated. You have a crack at it. And so it is expensive. You know what I mean?
You also need to have downtime. And that for certainly from somebody who comes from the creative industries, if I was to take a creative department that I was running and go, right, okay, you should be able to knock this out in 2 hours. And then we're going to give you another job that's going to take you 3 hours to do. That'd be an absolute nightmare. I could never get a department to work like that. And instead, what it'd be, you'd be giving them a problem and saying, all right, I'm going to give you, over the next week, put in this amount of time on it. And because I know that it's important for them to just put stuff to their back brain and not think about it. I would sometimes chuck my creatives out of the office. If I went round and I saw them on Facebook and they would, I knew they were wasting their time. And I'd say, what are you doing? I'd say, looking for inspiration. I'd be like, right, get your paper, get your pen and fuck off.
Yeah.
I don't want to see you until 4:00. And at 4:00, you're going to come back with some interesting ideas. And I'd throw them out the office and say, go someplace interesting. Go to a park, go to a coffee shop, go to a record shop, go to a museum, go see a film if you want. Whatever you do, your job, though, is to come back here at 4:00 with ideas. And that's the value that I got from them. That can't be measured in time because sometimes it will take you 4 minutes to crack a brief and get an idea. And another time it'll take you days and you cannot tell.
That's the same in our job. I mean, to solve a tax problem or so, people come with, simple problem. And they're just like, it's cross-border. It's like 5 different layers. But exactly that. So then they're like, well, I need to know in advance how much it's going to cost to solve my problem. And I mean, we have the same problem because actually, certainly tax is creative. It's like, stop holding me to it. I mean, going back to the training thing though, don't you feel a whole day's training is like, is that just my ADHD? I'm just like, a whole day training?
For most people and for most trainers, I'd say that's an absolute nightmare. I don't like to do full days training.
Okay.
So I would take people for maybe 3 hours. I'll give them a little break. So for that, it probably wouldn't be training, but maybe be me running like a AI strategy workshop, and I'll have the leadership, and I'll do that, and then I'll send them away to do something and bring them back, and I kind of we'll mix it up, and so I've been doing quite a bit of that for companies, mainly in the US, because in the US they do pay for training.
Yeah, so you're saying the UK is shit at paying for training. Yeah. I can imagine that, you know. And then so in the US they're well up for training their staff, are they?
Oh yeah, I spent a good couple of months last year just being in the US and training companies and working with them on workshops and stuff. But over here, it's just not that attitude. It's so penny pinching.
Yeah. Well, it's the same with professional advice. In America, they just see it as a cost of doing business. It's compliance. I don't care. I know it's really expensive. Don't fuck it up. That's what they know. Yeah. Fucking it up is really expensive. So get good advice, get it done. They're great to deal with, I mean, we should take umbrage or, take respect from what America does because frankly, they're so money focused and they're the ultimate business people in a way. They're all hustlers, aren't they? And they have pretty much built almost all of the greatest companies, when you go down the list, it's like, oh yeah, wow. Is there any other sort of cultural problem here with our sort of attitude that you bump into?
In the US, they don't really look beyond their own shores. Because, they're a big country. They've got every landscape in the country. They've got 350 million or whatever it is people in the States. Over here, we've got a smaller country. And I think we're far more international minded in that way. But I think we've lost a lot of our ambition. I think we've lost a lot of our vision over here. And I think when we look at Brexit, which, yes, I didn't agree with Brexit, I thought that the only way to deal with Brexit was to have somebody who had vision about how this country could be great again or whatever, don't want to sound like Trump or anything, but, but at least
there was some opportunity to it if you're going to go down that road.
And the opportunity has not been taken by anyone to say that here's the country, we want to be the best at innovation, we want to be whatever, put ourselves in the world map. And I think instead the UK is just becoming increasingly irrelevant. I
mean, you've written this manifesto, you train people in AI. It sounds very helpful what you do to try and get businesses to use it better. I mean, is there anything else within that is important to sort of raise about AI or things that you really think about a lot?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people have got a really poor experience of AI. So let's sort of think about people who the first time that they try AI, they'll do something like they'll they'll ask AI, could you write me a poem about a sentient slipper? And it will. And they'll look at it and they go, that is amazing. And I'll tell you why they think that is amazing. It's because they are shit at writing poetry. Now, what happens is that the AI, all its training data, it's basically trained on the internet and a bunch of books. And when we look at the internet, 90% of the internet is shit. 10% of it's all right and 1% of it's amazing. So when you do that and you average it all down, you get to something that's adequate. Now, if when you get this adequate poem out in just a matter of seconds, somebody whose adequacy, their level is way below adequacy, they're looking up at this going, whoa, that is great. Then you get somebody who's actually a poet, and I used to do poetry in Radio 4. And I know a bit about it, and I look down at that and I go, that's shit. It doesn't scan properly. It's got really poor use of words. So we've got this thing that it will naturally produce adequacy unless you get really good at prompting. And when you get good at prompting, you can then sort of say, this is what I'm aiming for. This is what I think good is. This is what the information you need to get there. And people don't understand that I'm not saying the AI is like a human, because it's not. It's just an algorithm. It's nothing more than a souped up version of text prediction on your phone. That's really what it is. It's a souped up version of that. It's just working out what is the likelihood of the next word. And therefore it gives you like the most likely next word based on your input. So it does this stuff that seems amazing to so many people. But if you learn to prompt properly, you can raise the standard of it. And this is one of the things that I'm really interested in, is people understanding how to write a good prompt, because most of their prompts, they treat it like a search engine. And it's not a search engine, it's a thinking engine. So the thing to understand is that when we are briefing, because that's what we're doing, we write a prompt, we are briefing the AI on what to do. We have to have as much information in there as we would give a human to do the same job. So what's the background information they need? We have to imagine that this is an intern that is really smart. You want them on your team in a pub quiz because they have eaten an internet and they've swallowed a library. Yeah. You want them there. They've got so much knowledge. But still, they've just started in your organization right now. They don't know anyone. They don't know how you work. They don't know what your expectations are. They don't know what you think good is. They don't know the style you want it to be in. So if we had that brand new super smart intern, what would we tell them as a brief? What brief would we need to give them to do that job? That's the information we need to give the AI. And if we don't give that much information, you cannot expect the same results.
Yeah, that's great advice. You've mentioned you did a lot of different things. What instrument did you play?
I used to be known as Dave and his bag of weird shit. And so when I was a session musician,
popular.
Yeah. So I would go around studios in Glasgow and Ireland, and I would basically have this big duffel bag, and I'd unzip it, and people would say, "What's that?" And I'd go, "It's a rabab. It's a Middle Eastern violin." And they'd go, "What's that sound like?" You go, "Ying, ying, ying." Okay, what's that? It's an oud.
Oh, and great.
So I had like world instruments that I'd play. I had electronic instruments I'd built. And then I played like blues. I played like slide guitar and Hammond organ and harmonica and all sorts of stuff. So I played about 40, 50 different instruments.
That's amazing.
And I was like okay at lots of different instruments. So people didn't get me in to be a virtuoso. They got me in because I could do so much and that I was really experimental. So that was a recording studio I was working for at one point that the guys who owned the record label came down one day because there was a flat that the bands would stay in attached to the studio. And it was this beautiful studio. We had an old desk from Abbey Road and it was incredible. And they came down and here was me with a 1950s vintage ribbon microphone down the bowl of a toilet, just about an inch above the water. And I had a sort of a vintage Marshall amp from the 1960s in there. And somebody was like blasting guitar through it, and I was picking it up in this microphone down the toilet bowl because I wanted this really harsh echo. And the producer came down, saw what I was doing, and went absolutely mental at me.
I bet though, there's loads of times they were writing a song though, and they'd be like, oh, "It's just missing something." It's like, I know this guy.
Scotland's only session stylophone player.
Oh my God, that's brilliant! But you've done so many things. You're a radio broadcaster, stand-up comedian. Did these all happen in order or all at the same time?
I've done a lot of stuff at the same time. So when I was creative director of one agency, the folk in the agency didn't know that every Friday I co-hosted a breakfast show in Cambridgeshire. So I would do this breakfast show where I would write poetry live on air. People would phone in and I'd basically have like the space of a record or 2 records to write a poem for them. And
you sound like a rapper. That's that freestyling stuff, you know? That's how I like to write.
So it was big pressure stuff. And then I'd jump on the train, go down and be creative director of an agency in London. But so that was kind of doing things at the same time. And then when I was a musician, I was a musician for a BBC theatre show. So there was a TV series that had gone on the road. And one night I was getting drunk with the writers of the show, or the folk that wrote Rapsy Nesbitt in Glasgow. And,
great program.
No, it's not. I was getting drunk with them, and I started making up these stupid songs, and they were drunk, so their judgment was impaired. And they said, "Do you want to close the show with half an hour of stand-up next week?" And my judgment was impaired, and I said yes. And I woke up the next morning with a hangover and the sudden realization that I had 7 days to write half an hour of stand-up, which is impossible.
Wow.
But I managed to do about 20 minutes.
And
the
learn
following
it.
week. And it went down a storm. The first gig I did, and I went on tour with them, where I was doing the music, and then I was closing the show with stand-up.
But you don't like Rapsy Nesbitt?
No. No.
I think it was on TV. I've seen bits of it. It was basically really hard to understand. I mean, you know, Brits aren't bad at understanding the whole accents everywhere. But I mean, that was part of the stick, wasn't it?
It was. You know, there is that thing in Glasgow. Glasgow is a very separated city. It's like sectarian in that you're either vowels or consonants. So you would get the Glaswegians who were on the vowels side. And then you get the ones that are on the consonant side. And when you bring it together, you get English. And it was sort of, you know, that's where I came from, that as a city.
Oh, and it was the consonant one in Rapsy Nesbitt.
Yes, he was the consonant one.
So where did you get into the AI? You were sort of, where did this happen?
Because corporate ADHD. Always done. You know, it's why I played so many instruments when I was a musician, because I'd go like, all right, I picked up how to do the mandolin 2 weeks ago. I've got all right at that. What's next?
You like that first bit of the learning curve where you're
it.
like, you know, I'll get adequate. Actually, I'll get sort of half good at it, and then it's like, I would have to do the next 9,000 hours to get a bit better.
Yeah.
So bugger that. I'll do a different instrument. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was like that with my career as well. So I got into advertising, and I started as an art director. And then I became a writer, and then I became head of art at an agency, and then I became head of writing at an agency, head of copy, and then I became head of technology at another agency, and I've always been flipping around from one to the other, and it didn't do me any favors for a long time, because I didn't go deep, like as we're saying, sort of skittering along the surface mainly, getting good enough at stuff. But that actually came into play when I reached that creative director level, and I knew everything. I had done everything, and I could relate to everyone. And that became really, really useful. And I was then able to open up opportunities. And because I was always looking at the future, what is happening with technology, what are the opportunities, I was able to see things that other people couldn't see. And that, after years of being this jack of all trades, master of none, I then became the person that was able to spot the opportunities, and I then got my value. And I'm always looking at the new stuff to see what's happening. And you know, I'm an old guy. I'm in my 50s, and that was your cue to say no, right? I'm still constantly playing with technology to see what can I do? How can I push this to its extremes? How can I find out how to use this better? How can I play with this until it breaks? And that's kind of what happened with AI. So I had toyed with AI over the last few years. Then when ChatGPT came out, I'd got a reputation for doing some stuff I'd been doing some art using AI to help me with my art. I do lino cuts and wood cuts, so really old-fashioned printing. And I was using AI to help me create these lino cuts and wood cuts, and I created a series of them, and I was starting to get attention for those. And then ChatGPT came out, and it became one of these things that you start to look online, and I realized that what most people were saying was absolute bullshit as people were trying to explain how to use this technology. And I realized that focusing on the technology wasn't necessarily the best way of doing it. We have to understand humans. And I brought all sorts of stuff from my understanding of neuroscience and psychology into this to work out how do we talk in the best way to AI. And I found I developed this sort of framework for being able to prompt in a really effective way. And then because I'd done some courses for LinkedIn Learning, I said to them, look, I've got an idea for a course on AI. And they said, well, take it. And I created this course, and it came out in March of last year and ended up becoming the most popular AI course on their platform. And that was a complete surprise to me. So they said, can we have some more? So I made some more courses. And last year, I'd never intended to become like somebody who's focused on AI.
That's amazing, man. All the stuff you do, amazing. You seem to be able to pick up things, and yeah, I mean, it makes you a polymath if you're not aware. But
I think it's important not to become an expert. I never want to be an expert. And when people are sort of introducing me, oh, he's an expert on AI, I'm like, no, I'm an amateur. An amateur is somebody who does stuff because they love it.
And has fresh eyes, I guess.
They've got fresh eyes, and they're curious, and they're able to bring in lessons from other domains and other fields. When you're an expert, you become myopic, and you close down to the other opportunities that can feed into this. So I am not an expert, and I never want to be.
Yeah, that's interesting. And actually it relates to, when you get very clever people who are sort of, polymaths and do all these different things. Yeah, I guess there's an aspect to them that they come into a new subject, they're super curious, they turn it upside down, they rip it apart, and then they move on. That's part of their process. But the intelligence allows them to sort of learn about it and adapt to it at a faster rate than normal,
And challenge it. And I think that's an important thing. When you're an expert, you're no longer challenging as much. You're taking so many assumptions. I don't have any assumptions.
Oh, I hate it when people won't change their view, when people sort of like, oh, well, the way it works. Who knows the way it works, man? The way it did work or work once, you know what I mean? That's fascinating. And is there a long-term goal then out of this? You've got like, okay, what I really want in life, or you just things come along that you find curious and you get into them?
Yeah, just I'm just constantly curious, and I will go wherever my curiosity takes me. And I'm still absolutely fascinated with the human brain. That to me is the most important thing. So how do we get the most out of humans? So when I'm looking at AI, it's not how do we get most out of AI, it's how do we use AI to get the most out of people. That is the real riches. And that, I think, gives me quite a different approach to this from most people who are looking at AI. And I think that putting AI in the hands of the CTO and saying that's your responsibility because it's tech is a huge mistake, because CTOs are not focused on getting the most out of people. And the problem is when we are then looking at even the COO, Chief Operating Officer, looking at AI is looking at productivity only. And again, that is a mistake. There needs to be a new kind of role here in a company to understand how to bring AI in. And there's going to be two ways of doing it. One is actually using the tools, and the other is the technology is going to be put into the products, as you're saying. So some of the products you're already using are getting AI built into it. So there's that side as well. So there's two sides to it. One is like using it as a tool by yourself, and the other is it's just going to be built into tools you're already using.
And you've tried lots of different things. Is this something you've really been really cocked up or really got wrong? Yeah.
Oh, I could look at my whole journey through the world of work as just cock up after cock up, where I get bored of stuff and I almost like self-sabotage, or I've been fired and all sorts of things. I've been requested to move on. It's fine. But a lot of that is because I make the mistake of thinking that places want change. So when they bring me in and they ask for change, and then I start to try and do something, then they resist it.
People hate change. It's a problem for me because, I'm in a business of lawyers and accountants. They're not necessarily going to be the biggest change makers. And then I throw out ideas and stuff in WhatsApp groups or and I've learned it really stresses people out. Look, people misread it too. They think I'm demanding it immediately, which I never said. I just said, but why don't we do this?
It got till the end of the week, for goodness sake.
Yeah, exactly. Tuesday. But for them, they also take it as an insult that I'm saying that they're doing their job badly. Yes. And I'm like, I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying I guess I'm saying, can't we always improve things? I love change, I'm not necessarily actually brilliant at changing. If you say to me, oh, you now need to work in that way, because that you're giving me a set of rules. And I'm like, oh, I don't really like following rules. You know what I mean? But I know what you mean about change. People find it very stressful. You have to be very careful how you present it.
But there's a lot of people, they want change. They don't want it, but they want it. I would love to love that. I would really like to like that.
Yeah.
But they don't actually really. And I've had that a lot over the years dealing with innovation. And I see that now when I'm talking to companies about AI, because AI is a form of change within the company. And there's lots of people who'd, they want it, but actually, is that going to change things? Is it going to disrupt stuff too much? It's taking me to an area that I don't completely understand.
How have you learned to deal with it? How do you present change then? Or what's the key to doing it without getting chucked out of the business?
Well, I think for AI at the moment, it's actually showing people what it's capable of. Because to be honest, I actually think that most prompts, that when people go online, they say, give me some prompts. And they find some prompts maybe on Forbes or something like that. And they go, oh, I'll keep those, I'll note those down. Most of those prompts are shit. So it's when you understand what a good prompt can do, what it's capable of, and I open people's eyes like that. They're like, holy shit, I didn't realize it could do that. I just go, yeah. Because you have to put in the work up front to think about what you're asking, to get everything together, to write that good brief. Then not only have you activated your own brain, but you're then going to activate the brain of the AI. And that means that you're going to get so much more at the end.
So you write, it's not lots of prompts. You write one long prompt.
I show people how to write one good, really proper, robust prompt that's got really good stuff in it. But I also show people how to have a conversation. And that's another approach, is that you have a conversation. So for that, I sort of bring in Socratic questioning and things like that to show people how you can use.
What's Socratic mean?
From Socrates.
Okay.
So he came up with this sort of questioning method that are different ways that you can question something to try and get to the truth of it. So there's I can't tell you off the top of my head, but there's about 7 different Socratic questions that you can get, and it's that how you can use that to have a conversation with AI. So I show people that kind of stuff as well. So I've got courses on my own website, davidbirss.com. Nobody can spell my name, so nobody will find it. And I've got courses on there that show people how to implement AI into what they do in the most valuable way. So how to find the opportunities in your own role that AI can be valuable for. And there's another one on advanced prompting techniques, which is really, I look into the nerdy stuff, the stuff that's come out of academic labs, and some of my own techniques that I've developed to say, right, here's the nerdy stuff that will totally boost your...
I don't know. It feels very Gary Larson to me that this top flight, PhD people just sitting in front of ChatGPT saying, ask it that, it's
Because, some of this stuff is crazy, crazy stuff. They found that actually being polite and being nice to the AI will get you better responses. But they also find...
What the fuck?
No, it really works.
But is that make it, is it alive?
Well, it has learned from all of this human interaction that it's got online and has discovered from that clearly that politeness will get you better results.
Oh, so it's just learning to copy us.
So it's learning from human behavior because that's what it's finding in the web. That's what we think. But the AI is a black box. We do not know how it works. We have no idea. Even the people who have created it have no idea how it's doing this stuff.
That's scary, but also wow. And they can't ask it how it's doing it.
No, we're starting. There's a company called Anthropic who I believe are starting to make inroads to actually work out what it's doing.
But I mean, that the way even those things you've said really means that, yeah, if AI get the keys to the drones, we're buggered. Do you know what I mean? Because it could just decide whatever, you know.
There's something, I don't know how true this is, because there was some bullshit going around about how the American military had been doing experiments with AI. But the story that came out of this, so this may be bullshit, I don't know, was that they had done a test on it to say, right, AI battlefield condition, and they gave it a load of rules and said that you have to report back to the main headquarters as you're doing stuff. And basically what in this test, the AI did in this hypothetical scenario, was the first thing it did was destroyed the headquarters so that it had freedom to do. That is the story. So that's the story.
I mean, it's smart.
Yeah, exactly. So we have to understand that it can think about things in different ways, solve problems in ways that don't have human assumptions attached to them and don't necessarily value things in the same way that humans do. Yes, that can be an issue. I don't believe that the AI has the potential at the moment of becoming sentient. I don't believe that it will. I don't believe that it will become this sort of thinking beast that will battle against humans and try to destroy us. I don't believe that, because it's not been taught that. And it's different from humans. Humans, we preserve ourselves, but AI and computers is more of a hive mind. And if you think about how hive creatures work, it's different. They're not responding in the same way. They don't work in the same way. They're not trying to be protective and territorial in the same way.
It's not tribal, basically. It's sort of like ants that it sort of adds together. Wow, that's pretty mad. And we just to finish up, because we need to ask the question. I mean, you've named stuff anyway, but what do you think is bullshit then in your industry? I mean, I don't know which industry, but one of them.
Well, if I was to look at the training industry, then, I've already said what's bullshit within training. I mean, particularly in the UK, I think that the attitude to training, you need to see it as an investment. And you're investing in this. You want the best product, the best trainer. Why would you want anything less? And yeah, I think that the attitude to training is really, really weak. But if we were to look at AI and what's bullshit, I think that the majority of AI products are trying to sell themselves as productivity tools in that sense. And I actually think that the majority of them aren't. And we need to just readjust our expectations and our understanding and the way that we use these products, and understand that these tools are not going to fix the stuff for us. We need humans to be part of this. And I kind of liken the best way to do it as it's like a lasagna. So you've got the sheets of silicon for the AI when you're trying to solve something. And then you've got the layers of meat. That's us. Our brains get involved. So you get brain meat in between. And it's us working in collaboration with the AI is going to get us to more. But people are thinking that if you automate it and you take out the meat and you just hand it over to the AI, we've got a danger at the moment where we're looking at AI agents as a future. So the agents basically means that they will be able to take on a bigger role that humans can do. So and basically plan their task and then execute it. The problem is that you're taking out the meat layers, and the meat layers are where the value is.
Yeah, I really agree. Maybe it's also you're missing the bechamel corporate bullshit sauce that's poured over everything and just fucks it all up. It's like, hey, this is working really well. Have a bit of that. Okay, brilliant. And any top tips for entrepreneurs?
You'll guess from my sort of general conversation today is that I think that humans are the most important thing. So if you're an entrepreneur, just understand that the people that you take on are so important. That there's a lot of people who see humans as work units, of work units of equal value. Do not see your staff like that. Your employees are so incredible. They hold so much potential. So invest in them and use education to develop their skills and use AI to help augment those skills. And I think that is something I'm just more and more finding myself as I'm working with tech and people expecting me to just be this tech gobshite, is that actually it's more and more that I'm seeing humans are the most important thing.
So we're going to get back down to the fun bit. We're going to ask you some simple questions where you should know the answer, hopefully. Quick fire round, DQ the music. And what was your first job?
Farmhand. I learned to drive in a combine harvester.
Wow.
At the age of 14.
That's like when you're little. That's like the ultimate machine. You know, it's so big. I didn't even know we had any in these countries because our fields are so small. They feel very American. Brilliant. And your worst job?
I think that was working in a car showroom. I was a marketing assistant in a car showroom, and well, I've got to say, working with a bunch of bell ends, it just wasn't my thing.
People who are very into sales are not always the best. Favorite subject at school?
Probably computing, but the funny thing is that actually what I've made a living out of is words and art. I hated my English teacher that I had at secondary school. He was like the most despicable human being he's one of these people actually thinking about him still makes me angry, and I'm in my 50s, for goodness sake. I should be over that.
You're dyslexic too, so that's going to give you that disadvantage. But It's funny you do poetry and stuff. So many rappers and stuff are dyslexic, you know? It's a sort of misunderstanding. My mum's always like, but darling, you were so terrible at English at school, you know? Why have you ended up like, you know? I'm like, I don't know. I think that's quite common sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it's like people who are a bit socially stunted make really good screenwriters because basically they're used to replaying in their heads the conversations they should have had.
Oh, wow. What a thought. That's a fascinating one. What's your special skill?
Oh, I think it's learning new stuff. I'm just my incessant curiosity. I think that if there's any superpower, that's my superpower. It's just I can become ridiculously interested in Victorian guttering. I could, or sort of which microbes are active when you've got yeast in bread. You know, that kind of stuff. I will be absolutely fascinated with that. And the thing I'm constantly battling with myself is not to go too far down the Wikipedia rabbit hole, but to pull myself back.
I was about to say, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Wikipedia, you know, because it's just exactly that. You can get into these subjects, can't you? You know, and what did you want to be when you grew up?
A vet.
Did you?
Yeah.
You love animals?
I loved animals.
Farmhand?
Yeah, that was it. And that was why I worked on the farm, is because I wanted to be a vet. And then I realized it involved hard work.
What did your parents want you to be?
Preacher.
Did they? And is that what your dad is?
No, but that's what they expected. That, you know,
they were very religious.
Yeah.
I guess you are a preacher.
I am now. That's the funny thing. I just preach in a different gospel.
It's very true. Go-to karaoke song?
Oh, never put me in karaoke. For somebody who was a musician, I was always playing the music. I was barely listening to the words that the singer was putting on. But push to it, it might be my Johnny Be Good. You know, it's a song that I never get bored of.
What's your opinion on the office dog, business or bullshit?
It depends on the dog. And
how's he done?
Your dog in the corner there is absolutely terrific. That's perfect temperament for an office. Yeah,
he's good. He's good news. Luckily, we don't have any rats down here, or it'd be a bloody nightmare. I remember taking to him a client meeting, saying, "Oh no, he's brilliant. He's always really great." And they were in the basement of this place in East London, and Romeo went in, and he was just like, there's rats, there's stuff here, you know, and it was a nightmare. And they were like, you said he was, it was a really embarrassing situation. But I was like, because I was like, yeah, you've got rats or something in this building, you know, and they were like, and I was just like, okay, you don't, and my dog's an asshole. You know, whatever you want. You said you've been fired. When were you fired?
I was fired by an agency in Scotland. Now, what happens in advertising is you work in a creative team. So you're a writer or an art director. Now, I lost my writer. So I'd been an art director and I couldn't find a writer in Scotland. So I'd been advised, maybe you become the writer and find an art director, because they knew I could write. So there we go. I thought I'll do that. So I got this guy in who was supposed to be this hotshot art director. He'd won a bunch of awards. And the first day he started working with me, I realized I'd made a mistake. So we got this brief and he's like, Dave, come up with an idea. And, I come up with an idea and he goes, that's shit. Come up with another one. I'm like, oh right. So I thought, Give him another idea. Really? You think that's good enough? He started putting me down like this. Within a week, I could not come up with any ideas. My brain had frozen. Yeah. And it's one of these things that's amazing the way your brain works, particularly when you're coming up with stuff, because coming up with ideas, there's a level of risk to it. There's the risk of ridicule. And that's one of the reasons why people don't tend to come up with ideas in business. They don't want to be ridiculed. They want people to think they're an idiot. Now, what happens when somebody actually tells you you're an idiot? A fucking idiot. All day. As you're trying to come up with stuff, you just stop. Your brain just...
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
I'm not doing that. So he broke me. I used to feel physically sick going into the office. So within a month, I was called up to the boss and he said, "You're not doing your job." And he fired me. And I then found out this guy had been telling lies about me as well.
Yeah, I bet.
So it was like, oh shit, he completely fucked that up for me. The brilliant thing was, I got fired on the Friday morning and I took my boxes of shit that I had, that I'd amassed, and I then got my father to come and collect me with his stuff. And in the afternoon, I then immediately got an interview to another agency on the same day. I'd been fired on the Friday morning.
What, and you looked at a CV, or you looked up some job adverts?
I phoned around. I just picked up the phone, started phoning. And the following Monday, I was in this agency working for the guy who was probably the best creative director in Scotland. And I was working for him and for twice the money. And this guy had total faith in me. And suddenly, again, my ideas were released.
It's lucky you got, in a way, you should be thankful that he talked some shit about you, because it got you fired.
Yeah.
It could have gone for months, that. You know what I mean? Before you went, I better leave and then I'll do a notice.
You're absolutely right. It's the best thing. Getting fired was the best thing. It really was.
Almost always the worst things that happen to you are the best things that ever happened to you, know?
Yeah, isn't that a sort of Chinese parable about, somebody that they're, somebody on a farm and their horse dies or something, and other people say, "Oh, it's really unfortunate." Say, "Well, we'll see."
And what's your vice?
Work. I work too much, and I need to.
Have you got kids? And
yeah. So I could really do with working a little bit less, but fortunately, I've got my 9-year-old daughter involved in my work last week because she's off on school holiday, and we've filmed a course together where we're teaching kids how to use AI in a way that can amplify their education rather than help them cheat. Yeah. So we've filmed a course together. This is great. I'm absolutely delighted that my 9-year-old's involved in what is now the family business.
That brings us to the end of the show. Our business or bullshit quiz. You need one of these. Our lovely business or bullshit quiz. You've got a paddle there. We're going to name some stuff. You need to hold that paddle up and speak clearly, whether it's business or bullshit, and then we can have a little bit of a debate about it, I think. I've got a paddle just so I can generally smack you or something.
That's great. I mean, I feel as if we should have a great big soft yellow ball.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Paddling across the table
might add that. Write that down, D. Okay, so D, cue the music. Are you ready? We're going to name some stuff. You've got to say it's business or bullshit.
Sure
We're clear. Okay, very good. And we're off. Well, I mean, it's a bit of an old hat now. Silicon Roundabout.
I mean, does it exist anymore?
I think it's a building site, basically.
Right. Okay. Well, I'd say that for anything, any country, any business, 90% of anything is shit. So I would say that on the whole, it's probably
say the word. Very good. Client lunches.
Oh, business.
Yeah.
I think that this is something that sadly has gone away. This building relationships with your clients. Everything these days, because of procurement, has just become so freaking cold, where it's just, this is a business. When people use that term, it's nothing personal, it's just business. Everything's fucking personal.
Yeah, I so agree.
Don't give me that. So absolutely, I think client lunches are really important. And I work from home, so I don't get to do them.
And I think that phrase is an American phrase, it's not business, it's personal, because I think in their culture, they do have a concept of removing morality as long as it's legal, in terms of the sort of like how you make your money, as long as you can get around legal corporate law.
Exactly. Leave your ethics at the door when you come in.
Yeah.
Just over there with the umbrellas.
This is about making money. And I mean, it's one thing I'm still proud about in this country is I'm like, that doesn't roll here. Yeah. It is not okay to screw me over if we've got a relationship. You know what I mean? You talk to me. And
I think we're getting more of that. I think we're getting more of the litigious, legalistic approach. And I think that procurement is making things a bit more difficult. Certainly I've found in the last few years.
Apparently the whole lunch culture is because tax was at 98% and it used to be deductible. So everyone used to buy each other lunch. Oh, let's go for a nice lunch, because it's 98%. The government's basically paying for it. May as well get the deduction, And then entertainment stopped being deductible, I don't know, whenever the 70s or something, so the 80s. So since then, it's sort of been dying out,
I see.
Oh, are you aware of these R&D tax credits? Have you been involved in these at all?
I think that from my perspective, I don't think enough people actually use them or know about them, but I don't know what the flaws are of them. I think that the government should be encouraging innovation in some way.
Yeah, they've kind of buggered it all up, if I'm really honest. Yeah, I mean, they were a grant operated by the tax system, and it was quite good. And then actually, they started getting enough people using them, and then there were a load of people committing fraud. I always struggle with this. They're always like, "Oh, there's these fraudsters over there," and everyone's like, "Oh, this is outrageous. We've got to get rid of it," or whatever, or like, And I'm like, surely when you design a system, you just need to accept that there's going to be 2% fraud or whatever. Do you know what I mean? There's always these arseholes. So, you could design the system as well. So what they've done is made the system more difficult, made it harder to claim, made it, and that's just screwing the 98%. So it's a bit of a shame what's going on. They're saying, oh, it's really important. But to be honest, at the moment, the only good news that's happening at the moment is the revenue are losing in court. They just lost a big case because they've just basically been trying to say nothing's R&D unless it's like, change the world or something, which wasn't what it was about. It was about saying, if you're trying to problem solve within your knowledge, and you're expanding your knowledge and you can't get it out of ChatGPT or Google, then that's R&D.
I don't know if it'd work for me. This is interesting because I'd say that probably 50% of what I do is R&D because I'm experimenting and trying new stuff out.
But your problem is that they don't allow basically creative industries, your social sciences and stuff. So if it's creative, they don't allow.
So even teaching. You can't really sort of put R&D down for that, probably not.
Well, the other thing is it's got to be for the benefit of your trade that you've either got to fail or sort of create something, You'd be an interesting one to look at. I think teaching probably fits under social sciences though, or something like that. There's annoying ones like that. Dress for success.
Yeah.
He's got the bullshit out.
Yeah, I'm a sort of jeans t-shirt kind of guy, and it's the way. It's amazing to see that the richest business people, the most successful business people of our time, do not wear suits, shirts. I cannot wear a shirt and tie. I feel so uncomfortable. I'm just doing this the whole time if I'm wearing a shirt and tie. So,
but if you go and see a bank manager and he's in shorts and a t-shirt, and isn't there a limit where you're like, oh, that's a bit weird. You go and see your doctor and he's sort of wearing pants, and a ripped t-shirt or something.
I wouldn't feel so comfortable getting on a transatlantic flight if the sort of
they're all in jeans.
Yeah, sort of scruffy pilot scratching his balls as you're sort of getting into the airplane. No,
firefighters turning up. I mean, it's sort of a bit weird, isn't it? They knock at your door. So I think, but maybe that's a different question. That's the concept of a uniform, isn't it?
Yes, but the dress for success thing, there's a psychological thing that happens when people get into the clothes. There's a lot of people, they'll wear something at the weekend, but when they're wanting to get into business mindset, they get into business clothes. And yes, that works for some people. It's not something that works for me or matters for me because I'm always at the periphery and always trying to challenge. So the idea of getting into a mindset is the opposite of what I want to do.
It certainly helps. I mean, certainly I go from douchebag idiot to and you put a suit on and then you look yourself in the mirror and you're like, oh yeah, maybe I do a job or something. Let's go to work.
So you're a normal, reasonable person when you get out of this. Is this what you're saying?
anything but. I mean, put it this way, none of my friends really, they love saying to people, they'll say, what do you think this guy does? What do you think, and they just, people guess for like an hour, and I'm like, I'm an accountant.
Yeah, I'm a spy.
I'm a spy, yeah, some of them. Golden parachute?
Yeah, it's one of these things. It depends, doesn't it? Sometimes, I mean, I'm not a fan of paying people off because they're shit, to get them out of the company. So I'd say I'm
not even sure. What is a golden parachute? Yeah, it's like we kick you out with lots of money.
Yeah, that's what I see it as. I think that's pretty bullshit. But it's one of these things. There's always going to be exceptions to that rule.
Okay, very good. How about digital nomads? We'll do a couple more.
I think that is absolutely fine. I've got friends who are digital nomads, and they
tax
travel.
dodgers, but tax avoiders.
Possibly.
I'm sorry to say, because everyone like fucking jumps up and down this shit about rich people. I'm like, hang on, half the people I know bugger off to another country so they don't have to pay tax, and apparently that's fine,
Well, with these folks, so there's a couple that I know that are doing this. They've been doing it for years. I think they've been digital nomads for about 10 years, and they travel around the world and consult for companies. And they have this brilliant lifestyle where they're just enjoying the world, traveling as they go. It's not for everyone. I think when you've got a family, you can't do something like that. But just the spirit behind it of wherever is comfortable for you to work.
I like that, but people do it a lot for tax.
Yes, okay.
They do it for places that offer visas and low tax rates, and I have a problem with the way that we keep talking about tax avoidance as this illness and it's outrageous and everyone's really angry about it. Well, you should be angry about tax evasion. And if we're talking about tax avoidance, I was having to explain this the other day. I was like, okay, I'll give you some examples of tax avoidance. Putting money into your pension. Okay, we tax avoiding now, investing in an EIS scheme to help a startup company, I mean, in fact, I can't come up with a suggestion like ISAs. ISAs are tax avoidance. I can't actually come up with many suggestions that aren't, or any suggestions that aren't exactly like that. Incentives within the system encourage you to look after yourself or help other people or whatever. So I just, it's my own problem, but I've got a bit of a bugbear about sort of, can we talk about tax avoidance properly, in terms of that's not an evil thing. And yeah, digital nomads, I'm kind of all for it, but can we accept that's tax dodging, And if we're honest about it, it's as naughty as anything. All right, let's do TikTok.
Oh, absolute bullshit. I think that I've got a real problem with TikTok. I think that it's helping to create this generation of people who are so dependent on the dopamine buzz. And I've got a real issue with that. And I think that social media in general has been an incredible curse on society, on people. We can see the impact that it's had on teenagers in terms of depression, suicide rates, sense of self-worth, all sorts of stuff. These companies should be held to account. And I think that TikTok is really harmful in terms of just people needing that dopamine buzz. It's really tapped into the weakness of humanity and hacked humans to become absolute pathetic beasts that just are reliant on that next swipe, that next hope that there's going to be something good.
I completely agree.
So can I hold up yours as well? Double bullshit.
Do a double bullshit.
Yeah, my goodness, I couldn't get enough bullshit for this one.
It's poison. It's poison for our minds and everything. I mean, I'm an advocate for it should be illegal if you're under 16. No access. And then I don't think you should be able to comment or like anything until you're 21 or something, because on the basis that I don't want to be influenced by kids. No disrespect, but adults should be influenced by adults. I want people who have grown up to be telling me whether something's good or not. There should be some bar. So maybe there's a period of which, and it'd be interesting how much you enjoy it if you can't. But yeah, I think it's deeply worrying, social media, and I don't think we seem to have a strategy to combat it at all.
No, I think we're going to suffer from it. I think it's caused its harm, and I think over the next few years, this dopamine dependence is something that's going to be difficult to deal with.
I mean, the only upside I've noticed is everyone's very ripped now. And I'm sure that's to do with Instagram and stuff. I'm sure everyone's like so worried about how they look. They're all down the gym and everyone's gone health mad. So there's that aspect, it's probably created a bit of that. But yeah, I mean, I saw someone, I think even on this podcast, someone said, yeah, I think you should ban it. And all the comment, people are really like, oh yeah, bloody nuts. You know what I mean? It's like, shut up, people getting wound up at like, you can't do that. It's like, no, I'm sorry. A bit like parenting. At times, it's the responsibility of government to say, this is poison. I mean, these things need to be stopped. Let's stop doing this and put a law in place. I don't care if you like it. We like almost everything that's bad for us, don't we?
That's the problem. It is a sugar high. Dee, can you tell me, does this, do you put snippets of this on TikTok?
We do.
You do? Right. You're watching this right now on TikTok. I just want to tell you that you've got a problem. I want you just to take a minute. I want you to not swipe, but instead close the app. Put your phone down. Give yourself 5 minutes of silence. See how bored you can become, because boredom is a beautiful thing. It does things to your brains. It helps you come up with better ideas. Boredom is something that you are missing out on because you are desperate for that next dopamine buzz. Don't do it. After 3, put the phone down. 1, 2, 3.
Well, Dave, I've got to give you an absolutely brilliant score. I think you've been a fantastic guest. I think you've smashed the quiz. So I'm going to score you with 62,312.
Wow. Thank you.
That's a cracking score. Scientifically worked out, of course. So thank you, Dave, for doing this. Where can people find you? Any final words?
I hide out under my own name. Where if you search for me online, Dave Birss, BIRSS, if any police officers out there, Bravo India, Romeo, Sierra, spell my name correctly, or you do get some things you don't want to see on an image search. And if davebirss.com, Google me, I'm all over there. And on my website, I've got courses to help you understand AI and how to use it in your role that you already have. And I've got stuff on LinkedIn and LinkedIn Learning. That's really where I hang out most.
Thank you, Dave, for doing this. So that was it. That was this week's episode of Business Without Bullshit. Thank you, Dee. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Romeo. Until then, it's ciao.